My mom growing up was a force of nature. She just always went at a sort of frenetic pace. So when she got the lupus diagnosis, it was life-changing for her. She would have tiny strokes that affected her mobility. In 2000, my dad passed away. So it just became more than she could handle. So my mom moved to Mercer Island, closer to me. She was really interested in the Mercer Island community, music in the park, the Arts Council. She became involved in the senior lunches that were offered for youth and family services and felt very at home. My mom became aware of the geriatric specialist that served Mercer Island Youth and Family Services, Betsy Zuber, and reached out to her and asked if she could come and visit. And they began their 14-year relationship because she is a counselor. My mom could talk to her about truly what her fears were and introduced me to say, I want you to know her because you're probably going to need her down the road. My mom ended up having a fall, and then she had to recover at rehab. I came in and I saw Betsy's counsel. She would always educate me. This is sort of where your mom is right now. After our talk, I knew she couldn't come back to our house. And that was tough. I said to Betsy, will you come? Because I don't think I could do it without you. She said, not a problem. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think my mom was so much more accepting of this new challenge in front of her because she looked across the table and there's my friend and there's my advocate. And if Betsy's saying, let's try it out, I'll try it out. So at that point in time, she moved in a full-time care facility on Mercer Island. Betsy continued to come and visit. That is something I'm forever grateful for. I remember telling her that my mom had passed and having the opportunity to thank her for the relationship that they had shared for such a long period of time.
I was born in Paraguay in 1991, and I was adopted June 24th, 1992, and brought back to America. I had a new mom, a new dad, and a big brother. We lived all over the States and eventually moved overseas because of my dad's job. For the time I was over there, I didn't really have much parental guidance. There was a bunch of parties for my parents all the time. But because I had a brother who was 5 years older than me, we managed to just become best friends. My brother was very involved with drugs by this time. And so when we moved back to the States, that's when things got kind of really intense. When I was a freshman, I started kind of hearing rumors of the idea of him possibly moving to heroin. I went to my mother, and the response I got was, how dare you spread lies about your brother? It got worse and worse because I felt like this was a pretty serious problem, that someone needed to do something. And Calvin, of course, found out that I was saying this, which pushed him away. I had always kind of idolized my brother, and I'd always looked up to him and thought of him as like, oh my gosh, if Calvin likes me, then I'm the coolest person ever. I adored my big brother. And as a 16-year-old girl, I was just kind of in a tailspin. The fighting got so intense and the screaming got so intense, and my mom said, you are no longer allowed to stay here. You have destroyed the family. You can, 1, go back into foster care. 2, you can live on the streets. Or 3, you can go and live with your aunt and uncle on Mercer Island. After I'd been enrolled in school for a few months, my dear sweet auntie could tell that I was not in a good place. I was crying every day, I was angry, I was aggressive. And so my aunt told me, listen, Mercer Island has a place for you to go to talk to someone, to feel safe. I came to Youth and Family Services and I started seeing my counselor, Steve. When I first started coming to therapy, Steve kind of helped me say, you know what, I get to decide if I want this negativity in my life or not. I am allowed to have control over my own life and my own actions. After high school, I had stopped coming to Youth and Family Services. Everything was going okay. I was building my life pretty well, and just after I turned 21, I received a phone call from my Nana, and I said, it's about Calvin, isn't it? And she told me yes, that Calvin had passed away the previous night of a heroin overdose, which was something I had been prepared for a very long time, but not prepared for at all. That was a very hard thing for me to deal with, and I'm still coping with it today. It was a really amazing thing to be able to come back here. When I called Steve and I told him, hey, listen, I don't have health insurance, he's like, well, that's okay, we want to work with you. That alone was enough to make me feel like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not going to be stuck in this really sad, lonely place anymore. There's somebody who's willing to help me. I think about my journey with Youth and Family Services as starting as this 16-year-old, scared, hurt, angry little girl to who I am now, which I'm so confident now in what I can do and what I believe I can do. And all of that is really due to the tools that I've learned at Youth and Family Services.
Being able to have Youth and Family Services be on Mercer Island in my own backyard is indescribable how lucky I felt to be able to have that.
Whatever I want the future to be is what it's going to be, because I'm going to frame it in that way. And I know that there will be bad days and there will be sad days, and I know that I have a safe place to go when that happens.
A person that walks with your family through tough times, you never forget that person and what they've done for you.